and welcome to viewers wherever you are. Tonight we have got an old friend of mine who is a kindred spirit. He's in the business of educating people in the wonders of science. His role in life at the moment is the chief executive position of Brighton Science Festival, which provides entertaining scientific experiences for children during school holidays. And I believe he actually goes into schools as well and enthralls them with scientific hands-on stuff there too. His name is Dr. Richard Robinson. Hello, Richard.
Hello.
How the devil are you?
Very fine, thank you. Very nice of you to have me on here. It's lovely. The Science Festival is great fun. I actually set it up with the intention, well, obviously of educating, but also there was a secret message here. I wanted to find out about life, the universe and everything, not just for everybody, but also for me, because I intended to write a book. And that's the book I've been writing recently. I have to say, I had somebody along towards the end of this exercise who knew everything about everything. He just published a book, you know, we're all doing it now, about the entire universe, the history of everything. And he spoke for an hour, utter gibberish as far as I could see. I couldn't understand a word of it. It was in Sanskrit. It was so obscure. I thought, this is what I'm here to counterbalance with something a little bit down to earth.
You're going to translate it into understandable English that talk to children.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Well, I put out a message that you were undergoing this traumatic experience of trying to write. And I invited people who have previously been on my show.
Fellow survivors.
To offer their expert advice. And I had a response from Dr. Martin Munt, who is the lead officer at the Isle of Wight Dinosaur Experience. And he wrote back saying, I recommend On the Origin of Species Retold and Illustrated by Sabina Radeva. I bought this for my grandchildren instead of the Noah's Ark. It could give you inspiration.
I've actually ordered it because I'm going to find out. Yeah, I think it's, I mean, I looked at one or two of the pages that it had illustrated, and I thought, the first thing I thought was, yes, this is the book I don't want to write because it is a bit too dry. It reminded me of a dentist waiting room rather than a knockabout comedy, fast drama tragedy. Which is what I really wanted to do. On the other hand, it does look, I mean, it looks academic, but it looks as though it clearly lays out all the basics of evolution. So I'm going to look at it with interest because it's something that I could give to my grandchildren when they really want to know, but fact by fact, when they want to pass exams in it, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have an age group in mind that you're targeting?
I'm targeting 9 to 11s. So that's very specific. Publishers would be proud of me because I generally say, oh yeah, you know, mums and dads and uncles and grannies, I want all of them. I want to be able to have everybody read it. My inspiration was Kipling's Just So Stories, which we have to say nowadays look a little bit on the inaccurate side. So my stories, they're not as good as him in the writing, but they are more just so than him.
Yes, yes. I know what you mean. But they're probably a bit politically incorrect too now.
I don't think so, because he was talking about animals. You can be as racist as you like between animals. No humans were doing this.
I won't point you in the direction of the Animal Liberation Front then.
No, definitely not. No.
So you're aiming at a narrative style, I believe, are you?
Yeah, I'm trying to tell a ripping yarn. The idea is that you are in it right from the start, right from the Big Bang onwards. So you appear almost immediately, obviously not straight away, because what appears first of all is this stuff, energy.
Yes.
Way we're in complications. What is energy? I hope they don't ask that question. If they do ask the question, I'll have to say things like, well, we're not sure about the Big Bang or the energy or actually what happened in the first trillionth of a second, which apparently people have written large books about, or if it happened at all. It could be lots of little bangs. You know, I believe in almost in the steady state theory. We don't know about the beginning, we don't know about the end, so we have lovely tales about that. I have the same excitement about the period between the beginning of life and the beginning of life as we know it during the Cambrian explosion. So for about 3.5 billion years, you can say whatever you like. There's no evidence either way.
yes. It's all speculation.
Yes. So straight away, though, you are a hydrogen atom. So we're pretty sure that hydrogen started the experience. Hydrogen is the beginning. Then hydrogen gets affected by gravity. Again, what is gravity? And you realize the closer you get to gravity that actually kids aren't sure about it. They just think, well, it's there. They don't know that they've got any. They know it's there. The Earth has it, but they don't know about anything else. So you have to remind them that the moon has gravity. And they say, oh, right, okay. And it has less. Why has it got less? Because it's got less stuff. What do you mean? And then you have to say, well, you've got gravity because you're made of stuff. So when you jump up in the air, obviously you're pulled down to the Earth by the Earth. But also the Earth is pulled up a little bit towards you because it's attracted by your gravity. Not a lot, obviously, just about half a diameter of a hydrogen atom maybe, but you do go up a little bit. And when the moon goes over, this is another thing that chimes in with people's experience. When the moon goes over, it is attracted towards the Earth. That's why it doesn't go flying off. But also the Earth is attracted towards it. Most of it doesn't really bother going there, but the sea on the surface is sucked up towards the moon. So there's a bit of evidence there. That's what we call high tides. And this ties in with their own experience of highs and low tides and gravity. So they're getting to grips with the big and impossible thing of gravity just through daily experience. That's what I want, is to be able to say the evidence for this or this or this is something that happens all the time with you in life. And it's quite hard with energy. It's not so hard with gravity. So gravity pulls everything together. Hydrogen gets squished together with other hydrogens until it forms. Eventually, the gravity pushes them together and they form a helium. Now, as you see with my hands, the space taken up by my helium is less than the space taken up by two hydrogens. So they've saved a little bit of space, a little bit of energy spare. They let it out as a beam of light. And we have out in the sky there something which is doing that all the time, squeezing hydrogens together to make helium and squeezing out little bits of light, which is the sun, of course, producing sunlight. So there's a daily experience of what we do. Yes.
It's difficult to make these concepts palatable to children, isn't it?
These are big ones, yeah.
What are you going to, how are you going to represent gravity? As an elastic band between two bodies? Or what?
No, I'm trying to say there's going to be a big hand coming out and grabbing things and pulling it in. And if I did it properly, I'd have a hand which got smaller and smaller and smaller without the need of perspective. Smaller and smaller. Look, if I go, I'm pulling here, right, going across there, and the further away it goes, the smaller the hand becomes until it's got a very small pull.
Yes. So you're not...
You are, the smaller your gravity, so the smaller you become as well. And so actually perspective, look at the way my arms got so thin there and weedy. The perspective that happens with the camera is almost the same as the perspective that happens with gravity. It's an analogy, obviously, it doesn't happen like that. But it does give the indication that the more pull you've got, the more hands you've got going up from the atoms, pulling other atoms in, the bigger the hand, the combined hand is. A lot of graphics got to go into that. I'm going to make pictures that indicate that. I've got a picture here which is of hydrogen being squashed together to make helium. Shall I show you that?
Yes, please. So you're staying well clear of Einstein's field theory.
Yeah, I think so. Partly because I don't fully understand it myself. And I mean, I'm also staying a little bit clear of the timey-wimey thing, the magic of, there is a magic force that does it. There is a force which you might call magic, but it's a measurable force, and it's got a reasonable thing. The big problem is that they need to know that gravity is not something that you buy in a packet that you pour out. It's got a sense of proportion to it, and that will mean that they'll understand that the bigger the object, the more there is gravity. They'll understand how. Eventually, I'll understand why it is that the moon doesn't fly off in a straight line, but keeps on being pulled around by gravity.
Yeah.
So the balance between going in a straight line and sinking down onto the Earth. They'll understand how black holes form, of course, as well.
Yes. I used to.
You look out in space and see lots and lots of balls of gravitation go. That wonderful picture I showed you a minute ago of the. We'll show that up in a
Okay. I used to try and explain orbit by saying if you throw a stone, it goes up and it comes down.
Yeah.
But if only you could throw it hard enough, when it came down, it would have gone over the horizon.
Yeah.
And at that point, if you're in orbit, it's going to go continually round, come and hit you on the back of the head.
I do a thing with a plate and a glass of wine. You know, when you put a glass of wine on a plate and then you spin it around your head, and the glass of wine doesn't fall off, and they're all saying, why not? And I'm saying, well, actually, if I let it go, it would go in a straight line. But what I'm doing is tugging it back a little bit, tugging it back, constantly tugging it back. And it's my tugging, my centripetal force, which is making that thing not fly off in a straight line, but keep coming around me. That's the explanation which I give them. Because I'm doing that, they say, yes, all right, I believe you.
Yes, they don't want to be hit by wine.
No, I might just let go.
Okay, let's put your thing up then. What are you going to show us?
Oh, okay. There's hydrogen. I've got stop sharing here, so I'm still sharing according to me.
Yes, you are. You can stop sharing that and start sharing something else, or we could go straight into your PowerPoint. Oh no, you've gone. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to share screen, application window, and it's going to be share. So
there you are. Okay, good.
That's a kind of a graphic. Because the hydrogen has joined with another hydrogen to form helium, we can now have eyes. And everything from now on is going to have two eyes. All right. The word teleology is coming into view, I see. Anthropomorphism. Everything's got a personality now. I'll show you another one of those then. Because let's share screen. Yes. Application.
These are pitfalls that you're likely to fall into when trying to represent very abstract ideas in an understandable way to children. I mean, I spent a lifetime trying to do this as a science teacher.
Yep. Oh, did that happen?
Yes, I got that.
You've got those characters. Okay. So this is the first time you, obviously, your two eyes, swallowed a mitochondrion. Up till then, you'd been dissolving cells and sucking the juices out, but then you took to actually just enveloping them and chewing them, and you got it inside you, and you said, right, I'm going to sit here and digest this for a day or two. That would be nice. And it refused to be digested. And you said, excuse me, what are you doing down there? And it started speaking to you. You said, look, don't dissolve me. I could be useful. And you said, excuse me, once I've eaten my meal, I do not like to talk with it. Please get dissolved. He said, no, you can't dissolve me. And anyway, I'm going to be useful. Look, do you feel that kind of tingle? And you said, what? Are you making me do that tingle, are you? Would you stop doing that? It makes me very anxious, get agitated. I said, yes, no, don't worry about it. What I'm doing is I'm sharing my energy with you. and my energy is what's going to power you. All you have to do is feed me from now on. You say, no, I'm not feeding you. I'm eating you, please. I'll take the energy, but then I'll dissolve you. He said, no, it's all right. Don't worry about a thing. In exchange for feeding me, you'll become ruler of the planet. All right? And then it immediately divided into 2, and then into 4, and then into 8, and started populating your cell. And you actually, well, the indigestible truth was you did end up ruling the planet. That was a major step forward for all of animal kind.
Mm. Yeah, so we've made a sudden jump here, haven't we, from cosmology to biogenesis.
Yeah, hang on a second. We're going to stop sharing. And yeah, big jump. The problem with the first chapter is that it's got all these very, very big things. And what we haven't mentioned is chaos. Why is everything in the universe spherical? It's because of chaos. That is a big thing for kids. Chaos is what their bedroom looks like before it becomes ordered. Chaos is not something neat and tidy. It's a mess. Chaos and random for them is the same thing. So you have to introduce them to a kind of chaos which is better. Your weather is chaotic. You kind of know, but you don't completely know. Clouds are chaotic. They kind of look the same, but not quite the same. And everything is chaotic. For instance, a chemical reaction of any sort is chaotic. Nobody organizes it. You put some hydrogen in the room and some in the room, light a match, and you get an explosion, and there's water. How did that happen? Every molecule of water is exactly the same shape, with those 2 hydrogen atoms at 104.5 degrees, precisely, all around the universe. That's chaos.
It's like Mickey Mouse's ears.
What?
Like
yeah, Mickey Mouse's
ears.
Totally. Just as much fun at bath time. So all these things are basically chaos. And that's another big issue. And you've got to get over these huge hurdles before you get on to having 2 eyes and personality as a single-celled creature.
Yes. So it seems to me that what you're doing here is not so much writing a book as writing the script or the screenplay, perhaps, for an animated, cartoony movie.
Yep. I've got chapters that go, first of all, what's wonderful is the DNA and the fact that DNA evolves. And then a little bit later, you say, right, and the next big invention was the flagellum. And the flagellum is a big thing. It's like agriculture later on, or the internet, or Zoom, or whatever you like. Those innovations that completely change, the game changers, are there. Before the flagellum, these creatures, these little blobs of protoplasm with DNA inside, they just lay on the floor waiting for the food to come to them, hopefully. For some of them it was, some of them it wasn't. And they didn't, and they died. But the ones that were left stayed alive. But you could actually find the food. You could hunt it down. You could get away from the poisons. I have got a demonstration of how to avoid poisons.
So you need well-known actors to voice these characters, really, don't you? Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be nice. Yes. Okay. Let me first of all. There are stages before we can get to that point. Obviously, the Hollywood will be knocking at my door within weeks. But in the 2 weeks until then, there are stages to go. For instance, we'll get the script, which I've now got as a sort of book in the same format as Just Those Stories, without the illustrations or anything. I am doing some illustrations, and the point of the illustrations is to go with the notes on the website. Revolutionary. We can use the website. Notes are the things that people don't read. So I'm not going to put notes in the book and say, read the notes, you'll find out more, because they won't. But if we've got a website which is somehow enticing, which looks like one of those adventure games or Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, where you say, find out more by going down this corridor. Who knows what's at the end of that? All these sort of strange creatures can be there. And I'll show you some of the strange creatures that there are actually officially around. Say what?
As long as you can find your way back to, as long as you can find your way back. That was always a problem with Dungeons and Dragons. You kept
thesis.
going into another rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Never
Thesis.
got back to where your original thread.
Yeah, I found the same thing with Google Docs. I got completely confused by that. I think they've improved since the early days. However, what I'm planning to do, obviously, you have the thread at the top. Where's the top? Up there. At the top of the picture, you've got where you've come from. A lot of websites do that now anyway. So you can make your way back to wherever you need to be. I'll show you one of the strange things you might find. Where is it? Oh, why is it not there?
It hasn't come up here yet. You haven't clicked something.
No, I haven't clicked it because I can't find it. I'm sure it's there. There's one.
Yes, we got that now.
But that's not particularly scary. That's just a lizard chasing after a mouse. That's rather up to date. I've got the Cambrian explosion.
Who draws these?
Oh, these are mine.
Well, you're obviously multi-talented.
Too much. Yeah. I had a privileged education and I tried to do the best I could with it. I can't go on. Why is it not there? Cambrian features. I must have closed you off somehow. Right, there you are. And I'm going back, stop sharing. Then I start sharing. Share screen, application window. That's the Cambrian creatures.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. These are they were found in the Burgess Shale.
Yes. Yes.
By Walcott and others, and they were astonished by them. They gave them extraordinary names. They gave them Latin names actually, and the names they gave them were.
Well, we always use Latin and Greek for naming.
I know.
Do you know why we do that?
They look impressive in Latin.
Yes, but you know the real reason. It's not just to bamboozle people and make them, befuddled by science. There's a better reason than that why we choose to use ancient languages for naming.
It's because everybody can be confused together rather than some knowing it and the others not, right?
No, it's because nobody speaks these ancient languages anymore, so they can't change their meaning. They can't, it's a spoken language metamorphoses all the time, doesn't it?
I got you.
So
yes.
The words change their meaning, but if we've got a non-spoken language like Latin or ancient Greek, that doesn't happen.
I got you.
And of course, it's got the added advantage that we can blind people with science.
Yeah, the real names they were given Wewaxia and Animalarchus and others. I haven't got them down here, the original Latin, but translated into English, the names were Windy Peaks. That's Wewaxia. I think that's not there. Otto the Boundless, Sydney's Surprise, Weird Warty Teeth, Elusive Fantasy, and Peculiar Shrimp. And these were the
for your animated characters, those names are much more appropriate, much more child friendly.
Oh yes, these characters roaming around on the sea floor, and with that little modest worm in the middle, which is you. By then you have joined with various other things to become a worm. And you've got to evolve pretty fast to get rid of them. Now, I've got a section from the book actually here, which I'd like to read out so you can see the kind of problems I had and the solution that I decided upon, which is...
Yes, please. I'll just take that down and I will full screen you for your reading.
Okay. So as you floated towards your next meal, This was the Cambrian explosion here. So you were in the middle of the explosion. You don't know what you were going to find. You weren't sure whether you were going to be the food instead of the feeder, because you had these creatures, windy peaks, otter the boundless, sinister surprise, weird warty teeth, elusive fantasy, peculiar shrimp, and they were all evolving clever ways to attack and swallow and dissolve and throttle you. You needed to be well equipped with tools and tricks and so on. You found a way to speed up evolution by joining with other animals. This is multicellularism. You were good at digesting food, so you found that other animals liked your company because they would get fed if they hung around you. So you could attract a zoid, which was talented at sifting oxygen from water. You needed lots of oxygen, so that one became your gills. Add a water filterer, a poison destroyer, a liquid pump. These would become kidney, liver, and heart. An observer of light and a spotter of sounds became your eyes and your ears. Of course, all these organs had to be linked up so they could work together. So some of their cells stretched out and joined up in a hub where they could report on what was happening down their end and what they were doing about it. This would be the brain. To begin with, your brain was useless. The hub's hubbub was a crazy, chaotic cacophony, but you evolved. But as you evolved, your dafter decisions were removed by the simple failure of the dafter creature to survive long enough to make babies. This way, you as a species became smarter. It was time to say goodbye to your flagella, which were okay for driving you around when you were a little runaround, but looked a bit flimsy on this new enterprise. So you took on a zoid that was practically all muscle and got it and its children to encase you all over. Now you had the power and speed to get away from danger and to be first to the food. But the real genius, game-changing evolutionary invention was a skeleton. Not only could the muscles hook onto a solid base and do some real serious workout, but all those organs now had a place to hang and a cage to protect them. Now you were complete. In short, you were a fish. Hello, fish.
Yeah. So I see where you're going. It's very how should I say, adapted for the reader or for the viewer. You're choosing a path through evolution, aiming at us eventually.
Yeah, well, you can see yourself being there. All those things are familiar. Heart, lungs, yes.
Because it didn't really happen like that, but that's how you're portraying it to get to the child mind.
We don't know what order it happened in, but the speculation is as good as any that the gut was a useful magnet for all the other creatures because it would feed them. And we've got examples of similar things happening, of course, with the Portuguese man of war, where you have 4 zoids that joined together. One was good at fishing, and as my story has, it was so busy fishing it didn't have time to eat. Another one of its victims came up and said, no, I can help you, don't eat me. And I said, that's what they all say. What are you going to do? And he said, well, I could do your eating for you. You catch the stuff, I'll eat it. How about that? And the fisher said, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's do that. Which sounds a bit daft until you realize they could drill a hole through from one side to the other. And then the eater could eat and stuff the food through the gap so the fisher didn't need to stop fishing. Brilliant. And then they were so brilliant that they fished out at sea, so there was no more food for them. So they said, we're going to starve, we're going to go extinct. And then a sound came from above. I could help you. What are you? I'm a floater. I float around the oceans and sea places. Problem is, of course, I can't get food up there, so you could help me. So they joined up with the floater, and the floater floated, and the fisher fished, and the eater ate. Until they were really successful, and one of them said, why don't we make babies, because they'd be pretty good, wouldn't they? You know, we're a good business plan, we could cover the world. And they all looked at each other and said, do you know how to make babies? No, I don't know, I'm too busy eating anyway. Anybody else? No, we don't know. Looks like we're sunk. And a voice came from behind. I could help you. So, where did you come from? I came from an egg. You obviously don't know the first thing. Yeah, I'll make the babies. You do all the rest. Because I'm so busy making babies, I haven't got time to eat. And I never go on a holiday. So the baby maker hooked on with the others and they said, right, let's go. Can I make babies? Yes, you can make babies. Of course you can, but it's got to look like me. And me, and me. Oh, well, you can't do that because I'm me. You'll have to give me your DNA and then I can do it. So they all gave the baby maker some DNA and the baby maker made babies that looked like them, which was fine. The only problem was that because they'd given it their DNA, they were now trapped. They couldn't leave the Portuguese man of war and go off independently. They were in what the scientists like to call an obligative codependency. I like that. You like that? Repeat that 3 times and you're really posh. Obligative codependency. My guy came to describe the universe, and was full of words like that all the way through. He felt wonderful by the end, and we felt humiliated by his knowledge. So this is how the Portuguese man of war got together. It's nearly an animal. I should show you, of course, the slime mold.
Yes, please.
As B. Yes, right. So in that case, you're going to have the whole lot. Okay, sorry, everybody. I've got a PowerPoint presentation here with all sorts of bits and pieces from the PowerPoints that I do. I got 3 hours worth of PowerPoint, but I've not brought them all. Okay, I've just got a few little. I have got one thing which shows how life can take over the planet, which is quite important, but I'll come on to that. So here I go again, sharing the screen. Yes, share screen.
It seems to me that what you're doing is a sort of a cross between a fairy tale and science.
Yeah, just those stories, but just exactly so.
Yes, yes.
Right, here we go. Is that it? Have you got it?
Yep. Okay, I got it.
So I'm going to go to it. There we are. Are we nearly here yet? First thing, well, there we go. There we've got space working, gravity pulling things together. This is not very. This is what I had when I was a kid. My neighbor over the road had a book of stars, and this is what it looked like: books of black with little white dots on. What's all this about? And nowadays, it's just absolutely full of color. There's a reason for that. But you may see a sort of grey, misty bit in the middle. That's actually the Rosette Nebula, which Edwin Hubble managed to get a nice picture of. But when they got the Hubble telescope up there, it got a very much more impressive picture. That's what it looked like, that tiny bit. And if you blow that up, it looks like a Rococo cathedral. You can see God and the angels, can't you? They're there. It's a fantastic thing. And this is actually the picture. It's not being colorized or anything. They haven't gone over with an airbrush like they do when they're doing microbes. This is the actual wavelengths which have been squished up so they're small enough for our eye to register it. And those little nodules there are stars in the making. Each one of those little nodules is about the size of our solar system. And it's just a cloud of gas. The gas is getting gradually pulled closer and closer together. In billions and billions of years, it'll be big enough to explode as a star. What an extraordinary thing is that? And speaking of exploding stars, apparently we've got 2,000 going off every minute out there. So that's the calculation. And these are the pictures they've got nowadays. And they really are, they look like proper special effects, don't they? Here's the Crab Nebula. Again, that's what we're used to seeing when we're living in the 1950s, black and white all the way through. When did colour come into my life? And that's what it looks like now, which is an exploding star. It's exploding at about 1,000 miles an hour. And sooner or later, bits of that will come into our atmosphere, fall through the sky as a shooting star. This tiny little bit of dust will plonk onto the Earth. And this is the way the Earth will grow bigger and bigger until maybe one day it becomes a star. But don't hold your breath. There's this table of elements that were made in exploding stars, and those are the ones that are of interest. Why they bother with the other ones, I do not know. That's all you need. This is what happened when the Earth was formed and started moving around all over the place. I remember sitting in my school when I was a kid, looking at the map of the world and thinking, you know, South America looks as though it could fit into Africa. And it wasn't until 2 years ago I actually did the bit and put the jigsaw together. It's fantastic to think that those two were joined together. And when the salmon visited their neighbors over the road, they didn't realize that that road was going to get wider and wider and wider until they'd be swimming all the way across the Atlantic, just as though, because they couldn't get out of the habit. There's India colliding with Asia. It's still colliding and nobody's sent it a bill, but it's created all those mountains. Mount Everest was underwater 200 million years ago. The seashells at the top. It's extraordinary. It keeps on going up too because India's still pushing about 6 centimeters every year, which is not fast if you're a car, but it's impressive if you're a subcontinent. Nothing can stop it. And it's creating all those disasters that keep on happening in Afghanistan, in China, and in North India, Nepal, Tibet, and the rest. This is where life began, right underwater. It's fantastic. It's one of those hydrothermal vents. It looks exactly like Walt Disney's Magic Castle. So I believe that's where life began, don't you? Obviously. This is how to take over the world. These are bacteria. When my grandson was born, Craig Venter decided to create life from bits and pieces he found on his laboratory floor. So he stitched them together and he created a bacterium that did all that bacterium should do. It ate, it grew, it divided. There's Craig Venter, and there's his bacterium. Lovely fella. Half an hour later, it looked like that. Half an hour later, it looked like that. Half an hour later, well, to cut a long story short, after a day, he had a lump of Craig Venters the size of a sugar cube, about 1 trillion of them. Half an hour later, of course, he had 2, then 4, then 8, then 16, then 32, then 64, then 120. In fact, he had a box full of Craig Venters, and 7 hours later, he had a container full. So it took 7 hours to make the container, 3.5 hours to make the box, and 1 day to make the cube. So that's altogether 1 day, 10.5 hours. Now I'm going to go rapidly through the next few hours. So follow the numbers at the bottom. It's half an hour every time I click. So there it is. There it is in the container yard. And there's half an hour later, it's 2, then 4, then 8, then 16, then 32, then 64, then 128, then 256, then 512, then 1024. And that's the size of Tower of London. So half an hour later, it's twice the area of the Tower of London, and so it goes until it spreads out from the centre of London to the East Enders and takes over the West Enders and the North Enders and the South Enders and the home counties, and it's heading towards Brighton. Hello! And Worthing. We've got to move you somewhere else because you're endangering life and limb. There we are. We now have a measure, a Wales of Craig Venters. Shortly after that, the whole Celtic fringe is taken over. We got Great Britain taken over in 1 day, 23.5 hours. And on the stroke of midnight, Craig Venter invades Europe. Dun, 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 and he goes across Europe, north and south and east and west, across the Atlantic. Hello, Great Britain. Goodbye, Great Britain, because we're going to take over the planet. North, south, east and west. Here we go. And 2 days, 4 hours, we've taken over the entire planet. But only skin deep. We could go better than that. So we're going to go down. There it is at the top. See that right at the top there, that line of containers going down and down and down and down and down into the planet. We're going to zoom out. The center of the planet is right down the bottom there. You can't see it coming over the horizon. They are twice as big. So in 2 days, 13 hours, we've got a planet full. Half an hour later, we have a correction in case you think my maths was wrong. Half an hour later, we're going to go, oh, well, you know. The thing is, you know that never happens. You can look at the back of your hand and say, I've got 2 million bacteria on the back of my hand. I don't end up in the morning with a lump the size of Wales there. So what's the difference? The difference is evolution. You see, every one of those bacteria is slightly different. There's Craig Venter. There's one of his children. There's one of his children. There's another one. There's another one. Every one of them is different. Some are more successful than others. Which is going to take over the world? Oh, yes, Donald Craig Venter. And so we end up eventually with Luca, because that's the one that survives. And there's Luca. And here is Luca having a meat Yule. Well, not Luca, actually. This is somewhere down the tree. This is, there's a ciliate. It's going to get eaten by the amoeba. Oh, look at it, poor thing. It's saying, oh, a nice amoeba is coming to make friends with me. Yes, he's patting me on the back. He's going to embrace me. He's going to fold me into his arms. Be patient. Pseudopod. That's really not a foot at all. And the ciliate, so all innocent, really knows nothing what's going to happen. This is a horror movie. I have to tell you that the amoeba, weight for weight, the amoeba is the most vicious creature on the planet. And there is a ciliate at last discovering the digestive juices. Let's move on. There is the great triumph of the flagellum, which was a game changer. And there they all are, changing the games busily. This is one with 2 legs, because if you've got a good idea, it's worth having as many as you like. And this is one with lots of legs. So eventually they couldn't have enough of them. So they became cilia now rather than flagella. This is life halfway towards multicellular life. These are slime mold cells. They're eating away, but when they run out of food, they all gather together. They all move towards the strongest smell, as in the middle, and they stream towards the strongest smell, all gathering all together. And as they leave, any stragglers come along saying, where's the smell? Where's the smell? Follow the smell. I think it's over this way. I think it's over this way. And they cannot stop this. They're going to head together because they're working on a mission now. Instead of being individual cells with their own lifestyles, they join together to form slugs. Great long slugs. They have a front and a back and a sense of purpose. They're really like animals. They move around. But unlike animals, if they join together, they form a big animal. There's a big animal being formed. A mighty slug. If you chop one of those in half, you get 2 slugs. You cannot kill this. This thing is immortal because it has no organs. It is lots and lots of cells all working together. Eventually, when they get to the right place with enough light and enough space, they stop being animals and become a plant. They grow stalks, and you can see them gradually growing up. At the top of the stalks, there is a tiny little pod. They all work together on this, and they're all going to die, apart from the few amoebas that are left in the little seeds there, which get blown away on the wind towards another part of the forest, where they break out and start a new life. So they are independent, and then they're together as a team, and then they're independent again. So not quite as multicellular as the Portuguese man of war. This is the bridge between the two, the most remarkable thing. They are remarkable. They can do remarkable things. Oh, I haven't got them forming the Tokyo railway system, but they can do that. This is the past. We're here to haunt us. So you still have your tail that you had when you were a chimpanzee. When your chimpanzee used to hang around with your tail, the tail bones are still there hanging around waiting for the past to come back. When you're born, you have the grasp reflex. It's really quite powerful reflex. Why do you have that? Because when mum first had you, she couldn't hang around nurturing you. She had things to do. So you had to hang on tight for dear life. And that was an instinct you were born with. The appendix used to digest leaves because leaf is quite difficult to digest. My theory is that the appendix was mighty and strong and did all that job until cookery. And I think it's evolved away since cookery, because then it's not needed anymore. Lactose tolerance is the exception. Lactose intolerance is what you should have, because when you are first born, you're very vulnerable. And taking milk off your mum means you're both vulnerable. Mum's looking desperately around to see if there's anything trying to attack her. So the sooner that deer stops being keen on mum's milk, the better. Lactose intolerance sets in very early on. But when we moved further north, for really complicated reasons, we didn't get the sunshine we needed to manufacture penicillin C, so we needed it, and we got it from milk. We became lactose tolerant, and that was in a band north and south of the equator. Around the equator was lactose intolerance land. It's got mixed up a bit since then because people have traveled around the place. Wisdom teeth were always there. They're a bit of a nuisance now because your jaw is too small. If you look at the ape on the left-hand side, it's got a big jaw, plenty of room for all the teeth. But as you started cooking, you needed less of those teeth. You had more space for your brain, and you needed less muscle as well. So your jaw got smaller, but the teeth remained there, and so they are pushing in to your the other teeth when you achieve the age of wisdom, 15 to 25 years old. You notice on that ape the big teeth on the side there. These are the incisor teeth, and these show that you had an origin of leaping around the forest, grabbing hold of flesh and tearing it to the ground. That's where
you mean canine teeth?
Canines, yes. Sorry, canines. Did I say incisors? You don't say incisors, don't you? Oh, I've changed that.
Okay. Eyes were written as well.
Yeah. That's craziness. You can see the canines there in between the front, which are the cutters, and the back, which are the grinders. Canines. You have to waggle your ears, not now, but back in the day when you were a mouse, you had to be checking all around you. And I'll bet you can't do this. I will show you when we come off this, I will show you my ear waggle, which is not as good as this one, but it's pretty damn good. There is your ancestor looking out for danger, and its ears have to swivel all around in all directions. He's also had pointy ears, and the point is still there. That lump on the side of the ear, most of us have got something like this, and it's called Darwin's tubercle, and we reckon it's the original pointy ear. You've also got goosebumps from when you were a mouse, when you had fur, which you used to raise up to make yourself warmer. When you're cold, those goosebumps work, but you haven't got enough hair to make any difference at all. It just makes you look silly. Hackles are a slightly different thing. This is an ape with not much fur because they didn't need it. They're down in Africa, but around the shoulders they've got quite a lot because this is useful for making them look bigger and more frightening when they're scared. When you get scared, you find that tickling around your neck. That's your hackles going up. Doesn't make any impression on anybody around you, but you still remember it from back in the day. There's a wolf with hackles. Color blindness is original. Our recognition of red is quite a new development. And back in the day of the dog, we didn't recognize red at all. So if you can see the 57 here, you are human. If you can't, bit retro there. The third eyelid, when you came out of the sea first as a fish, you needed to keep your eye wet. So you had a third eyelid that went slip, slop, slip across it. It's still there, right in the middle there. That lump of red stuff is your third eyelid. And you can see it there on a cat. I think ostriches have it, and I don't know, dodos or something, bizarre things have third eyelid. Babies don't have third eyelids, although it looks as though you'd like one. Hiccups. Why do you get hiccups? Well, because of the way you had to rearrange your body when you came out on land, you had to take air in the tube, which you normally took water in. It was okay when you had water, but with air coming in into the lungs, which used to be your flotation vessel, you had to have a little flap that went across the epiglottis. Now, when babies are feeding, they need to take in air and milk simultaneously if they can. And they have difficulty with that, which is why they get hiccups. And that hiccups stays with you for quite a long time. I haven't had hiccups for years. Maybe I'm not nervous enough. So there we go with a baby with gills. The gills are there in a vestigial form, but they immediately go away to become part of your inner ear and your throat, and actually part of your jaw as well. They get repurposed. They got repurposed quite early on. The mitochondria, your earliest friend, is extraordinary because it's got its own DNA. So this was a big clue when they started doing genomes that we were actually not ourselves, but we were a combination of lots of animals, and particularly the ones in every cell, practically every cell in your body, who have their own DNA. They're just passengers. And this made it much easier for us to understand that we are actually, what is it? I'd say 99% others than ourselves. We are 99% not us. I say that with such certainty because there are about 100 mitochondria in each of your individual cells. So there you go, that's 99%. And that doesn't take into account the trillions there are in your gut or resting on your skin or in every orifice that you have. So the flagella, which accompanied you in your early life, still there. There is a flagellum there in your lungs, wafting phlegm towards your throat, and there it is in the throat, wafting it up towards your nose, and there it is. Oh, sorry, that was in your oviduct there. That's your lungs. There's your throat. There's your nose. That's snot being moved towards the front of your nose. Same thing goes for stuff in your ear, the wax in your ear, all around. And in your ear, they're used as well. As the vibrations come in, those are the remaining flagella there, which vibrate at different rates according to the length of flagellum there is, and they send a signal to the brain indicating sound. You are 78% salty water. That's the water that you dragged out of the sea with you when you landed on land. The sun is still doing what it used to do way back when you were very, 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 very small indeed. And the Big Bang, the echo of the Big Bang is still found on some receivers, the manual receivers, I do believe. That may be controversial. The rest of it is not controversial at all. And that's the end of my PowerPoint. Anybody there?
Well, it's a mammoth task you've taken on here, trying to compress and convert pretty much an encyclopedia of knowledge into a book for bedtime stories for children.
Well, I based the writing of it on the Bible, on Genesis, as written by John Tyndale, because he wrote a ripping good yarn, and it stood the test of time. It is quite a popular book, and he was very careful about it. Each chapter is about 1,000 words long. Same with me. About 1,000 words is a pretty good bedtime story. Each verse is sort of length of a breath. So every one of my paragraphs is about one verse long.
Right.
It's short verses, punchy writing, and as far as possible, it's the Bible. When I do it, I have done this as an hour-long show. I do it in schools a lot, and I get the whole school in there, everybody from year 3 upwards. And the head teacher says, I don't think they're going to be able to focus. They're a bit fidgety. They never are. They never are, because they're all interested. Everybody wants to know where we came from, what it's all about. I obviously bounce around all over the place, and I've got pretty pictures, and I'm telling extraordinary, startling things. But I don't go into much detail, of course, which in the book I have to a little bit more, which means I have to deal with chaos. I love chaos. I think the chaos is the big theme of the book. But will I get away with that all the way through?
Oh, I don't know. You might have to keep reinforcing that idea.
Yeah.
I particularly like the slime molds because they are just unclassifiable, aren't they? I mean, if you wanted a creature to demonstrate that classification is a human fabrication, that would be the one.
Yes.
Because it can't decide whether it's cellular, whether it's animal, whether it's plant, whether it's got organs. It can't decide. It depends what day it is.
Yeah. It makes the duck-billed platypus look like a punctured football, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
The duck-billed platypus was itself a sort of a mystery to people. When it first arrived from where is it? Somewhere in Southeast Asia, they brought it home and said, "Have a look at that one, then." And they looked for the stitch marks. They knew it was a forgery.
It's Australia. The duck-billed platypus.
It's got its own. Well, Australia. There you go. You see, the land of the odd. The only thing that's not odd about Australia is the rabbit. Solid and dependable.
And who took that then?
Yes. All right, sorry. And the cane toad. What a fantastic. I mean, wherever that came from, it's certainly at home in Australia, isn't it?
Yes. It's always a mistake to try and transpose species to somewhere where the environment is so different. They cannot be, there's no predators, they can't be controlled. They just run amok.
Yeah, the Rose Bay willow herb, which evolved on the sides of volcanoes, a very, very tough environment, and yet it managed to grow there. And people said, what a remarkable plant. They should have left it there, of course, because it came back to a laboratory in Oxford, and it spread up from Oxford, and you can follow its progress along the railway lines, because the railway embankment made from the same material as the volcanoes they came from. They were utterly at home.
Any recently disturbed soil, and it's happy.
Yeah. The only thing you can imagine that it might die of glut when it hits a nicely fertilized garden. Just explode of joy.
So, have we set the world to rights, do you think, or have we solved your book problems, or what?
Well, it's very nice to go through them. Thank you very much. I'm waiting for people to start saying, I've got a problem about this, and correcting me, adding stuff to it.
We may not have any comment. We don't always get comments.
No, so, okay. Well, the big problem we've got is that
you've covered so much ground. I think everybody's dumbfounded. So
the problem we've got is that the real problem is, of course, the much racier story that John Tyndall wrote in the first place, and that one has a proper story where somebody does it all. Somebody comes down and says, I think we'll have some light over there and some color over there and some animals down here. And, oh, yes. Plants.
Trying to do it without an agent of some sort. Well,
yeah.
When everything that's affected by human agents, that's a difficult barrier to overcome, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, the idea that God might be a sort of lizard around the corner, that doesn't work either. It has to be a human, big human, like Dad.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, yes. It's funny how so many gods are male.
Are there female ones?
There are some female ones. Yes, there's what's it? Cloacina. Cloacina is the Roman goddess of the sewers.
Oh,
she was assigned menial status.
Yeah, but the first creator, you'd have thought the first creator would be a female, because I mean, in reality, we didn't have any truck with males until about the era of the frog, did we? Up until then, females made their own babies. Didn't need males.
It would make more sense. It would make more sense for the mother of the universe to be female, wouldn't it? Yes.
The mother of the universe. Well, that is, you don't have a father of the universe, do you? So
who needs a father?
There must, because what you're describing there sounds like the Indian myths or the Chinese myths would have had a mother universe giving birth to the universe. Do you think the men just sort of censored that as soon as they got control?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
I do.
Well, still, we certainly got the chaos.
So
at the early stage.
So you're going to miss out the difficult things like energy, which is impossible to represent in a way that even I can understand, let alone a child.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Chaos, what have I got? Chaos, naughty but nice, I said. DNA, how can that happen accidentally? And all you can say is, well, if you got an accident, millions and millions and millions of random combinations, eventually you'll find one which does one thing only, which is replicate itself. All the other molecules come and go and stick around and but this one gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And rather like gravity, you can't stop it. It's just going to come.
So if you want to find out more about that, then I'd like to direct you to watching the episode that I had when I chatted to Professor Lee Cronin of Glasgow University, because he dealt with early encoding and decoding mechanisms, which he's investigating. He's got a whole team of people looking at how life originated. Fantastic.
Somebody said that possibly the first life form wasn't actually DNA, but the ribosome, the naughty molecule that just goes making things like that.
Yeah. Right, RNA world is favored by some.
Yeah. Well, RNA seems
but not by everyone. Yeah. In fact, I think Lee Cronin would suggest that there was something prior to RNA that had the early capability of encoding information and decoding and replicating information. Long before RNA. Anyway, you have been fantastic, and thank you very much. And we've come to the end of our hour.
I want to go on for another half hour. Find out more.
It doesn't seem like it when you. Pardon?
I'd just like to say, if anybody wants to find out more, or even to have a bit of fun, the Brighton Science Festival website, which you can get by Googling Brighton Science Festival website, there's only one of us, is absolutely festooned with websites for scientists, video channels, books that you can play, and invitations to join in, pick up the book of Are We Nearly Here Yet? All of those things absolutely free. There's 2,000 or so fantastic things there, which not mine, but I've been given them, sent them by various people, and I keep on finding new ones. Lovely, lovely stuff. Great way to spend some time with the kids. It's nearly all kid orientated, so you can have fun with them, learn a thing or two. Wonderful.
It is a fantastic website. And as you know, Richard, I've been along to your expositions with my daughters.
Yes.
Have
they been released from home?
Yes, before COVID-19.
Yes. That's right about that.
So, thank you very much. Take the rest of the day.
The rest of the day is my own. This is an hour after my bedtime, you know. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.